think we're talking enough that we should put it in a podcast again. And then you got the camera, and here we are.
We were some fresh-faced boys.
Yes.
And
You didn't have the
more
curls.
hair on my beard and none of it on my head.
It felt like an adventure.
I can hear the music playing in my head.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of The X Button. I am one of your hosts, Alejandro, and with me is the vacation man, the lumberjack.
Buddy.
Yeah.
I am both a lumberjack and the vacation boy.
And you look very dark. I forgot to tell you.
I don't know why it just all of a sudden got way darker in here, but there we go.
Are you getting rains also?
It's a little cloudy. It rained yesterday. So this is around that time for that.
Yeah, it's like rain hell right now down here.
Ooh,
It's kind of crazy.
the season for it.
Yeah, how was vacation, Paul? We haven't seen each other in like 2 weeks.
No, it's been good. I survived. Unfortunately, there was a tropical storm or something in the Gulf, so it rained most of the days that we were out there. We were able to make a few beach days happen where we kind of went out until they said, all right, storm's coming in, get out of here. There's one day where it was totally clear, and then the rest of the days it rained a lot. So I got to catch my parents up on Into the Spider-Verse.
Nice.
And we watched one episode of Mandalorian season 2.
Wait, they haven't seen it, right?
They have not seen. We finished season 1 of Mandalorian. We just started season 2. I was hoping that we could get more out of them, but it is like pulling teeth to get them to sit down and watch anything. The worst part is they love it all. Mm-hmm. They just never have a desire to sit down and watch media anymore. They're very tapped out in that aspect, I think.
I guess because they're old, right?
Both that and some people kind of lean into that. My wife's grandfather is obsessed with downloading and burning movies onto discs illegally all the time and always watches movies. Yeah, he's obsessed with it. And I'm like, gosh, that's gonna be me one day, I think.
Nah, we're in the digital era now.
I never get tired of it. Well, not like in the literal sense, but the watching of movies and things. Because once I retire, I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life.
Yeah, but still a long way for that to happen, Paul. But yeah,
until then, we're gonna be here.
Yeah. It was a good thing that we were able to record that evergreen episode that went out last week. The games that made us, basically, for each of our consoles.
That was a fun episode.
Yeah, I know you haven't even listened to it, so
I have actually.
I
am halfway through.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because you had not
listening to it a couple of
you had
days
not
ago.
when I asked you. So
yeah, there was some reason why. The reason behind me is because, by the way, everyone, I have a dog now, so I'm dealing with that. But I started listening to it on my route yesterday, and I got to the part with Wind Waker, and I was just like, yes, that I remembered that music lives rent-free in my head forever, and all of the other stuff that we were talking about. Clever for you to hide a lot of our heavier stuff behind B-roll footage.
Right.
That's probably the most B-roll we've ever used in an episode too.
It took me, that's what's funny. We recorded that so early, but then I got sick, and I'm still sick. That's what's so funny. Yeah, I still have a bunch of cough that just won't go away. I think I got influenza because I didn't get COVID again. Yeah. I made sure for that. But
there's a difference that you can kind of feel at this point.
Yes. So I procrastinated that edit because I had 2 weeks. I was like, yeah. And then I just got sick, and then the day was getting closer. So I was like, I'll try to add as much B-roll as possible. The thing is that the edit gets better with the edits as it goes along. Like the first edits, what sucks about whenever you're in editing, you always know how things could be better. I'm like, I wish I could have done this. But just listening to the audio, I really like how the music played at the right moment. So,
it was really good. Did we not get copyright struck for any of that?
We actually did, but just claimed.
Not surprised.
Yeah, we just got claimed, but we're not monetizing it. I was like, I'll take the hit for this one because I just wanted it to sound cool.
Did it say which one I actually tried?
Battle of the Heroes.
I knew it. I was like, oh no, he put John Williams in here. We're gone. No way we're making money.
Yes. But I was like, I don't care. I rather put it there.
It was a passion project.
It was a passion. I just wanted for it to be the special episode that we did. I'm just glad that we did. The good thing is that it inspired one of my friends like to do like a fun edit for us. That's gonna be the one that I shared you.
The music. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, the music he really liked the idea. He took a bunch of our audio, and now I think we got our new intro because it's very unique. It's very unique. It's very unique to us. You probably already heard it.
That's what I was like. I was confused because I was like, I know this wasn't the music we were thinking about when we did this, but this is cool. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know any of the context until just now.
So I just want to give a shout out to my friend Jordan. He listens to our show. He's been an avid listener, and he just promptly he just texted me, I did something cool for you. And that's the thing that I showed him. I was like, yeah, from now on, instead of having to use the pre-canned epic music, we're gonna use that because it's ours. That's
fantastic. Thank you, Jordan. I didn't realize that you actually literally created that music for us. That's way cooler than what I thought it was. Mm-hmm. And I'm excited because I mean that's like the first step to being actually professional, you know.
It's getting your own thing, because I remember that was originally the plan, and then we just had to improvise. But
we always do.
We got a new intro going from now on, starting with this, which is episode 54 of the X-Bottom Podcast, our gaming podcast that posts every Wednesdays from 2 p.m. onwards, God willing, available in the YouTube channel Escape Media, as well as most audio services around the world, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the like. You can find links in the RSS feed at anchor.fm/escape-media. If you enjoy our show, give us a like and subscribe. Paul, enough preamble. What have you been playing?
Well, as you see, I guess we can jump into the least played and then build up to the one that we both shared. Mm-hmm. I finished House of Ashes.
Yeah, how was that?
That was actually really awesome. I didn't expect to be as invested in both all of the characters and the stuff that goes on. You are right. Well, actually, no. So I was speaking to a friend of mine who loves that series, but admitted there is one problem, and it's that most of the times characters can die is from failing QuickTime events rather than actual decisions. So when I realized that, I went, oh, shoot, that's right. So all of the stuff that I've been warning myself about has been entirely like, oh, if you goof up mechanically rather than making a decision on something. So outside of that, though, it kind of circumvents one of the problems that I find with thrillers, in that you kind of know who's going to survive and who isn't. But the fact that the tension is kind of throughout, and I won't spoil it, but I had a character die that I didn't expect would die out of the selection that I had left, and that one actually was from a decision. I failed to find something that could reveal like a certain weakness, and it caused their death near the end. But at the very end, they had like a bait and switch on me where I thought I was done, and then all of a sudden, like the hardest QuickTime event, even on the easiest setting, jumped in at me, and I was like, ah! And it was very climactic and exciting, and it was really fun. So even if you're not a big horror fan, I would at least recommend House of Ashes, because it's far enough removed from horror tropes that I think
I was gonna ask you, because you have had an interesting experience with Until Dawn. Yes, game with these guys, and how different is the horror element of House of Ashes compared to like the more slasher?
It is far removed from the slasher aspect. It is full on like take Alien, and instead of the setting that you get for Alien, you put it into a temple, and it's regular soldiers that are finding the unnamed monsters of sorts. So it's more like that. So I could handle some of the more actiony aspects, because almost all of them are armed the whole time, but the monsters are almost immune in certain ways, but that still gives you tools to use against the monsters the whole time. So where slasher and like the Saw themes were just not my cup of tea at all for Until Dawn, this was a lot more removed into like an action adventure with horror elements.
Until Dawn is so good. I freaking love the slasher element. That was the perfect party game for me. That's the only way I played it, with people actually doing the decisions.
I think that's absolutely the only way. You gotta like be asking them like, all right, what's happening next, everybody? And they're like, hit circle. And that was back from my Detroit Become Human playthrough, because you just get people screaming at the screen the whole time for hours, and it's so fun. And it felt like a full like 2 movie length I would say, experience that by the end I was like, oh, I'm exhausted. I can't like play any more of these games for right now because it's like a whole saga of a journey that you go through, and I feel like there's so much that I could have done differently and better and stuff like that. But I now want to play all the rest and kind of work my way back. And I think there's actually a reference to one of the previous ones. Like they go to a town that was featured in like the second game or something.
In Little Hope.
Yeah, that's the one. But I don't think that's like the only mention of any of the other games. So if you ever want to just jump straight in, absolutely you can do a House of Ashes. I feel like it's a lot easier to pick up as long as you're okay with the hyper violence of like aliens. This will be totally what you're looking for. I
can totally stomach. What else, Paul, have you been playing?
I went back to Death Stranding because I needed something calming and chill. I'm really glad I decided to play that game on easy when I had first replayed it, and now I'm kind of in the doldrums of that mountainous area, which I feel like is the most struggling.
The snow mountain.
That's the one that's like the least interesting to walk through, and it's the most like chaotic to deal with. But the last time I played, I got big on the zipline process where you're just flying through the entire map, and that's just a lot of fun. So,
that's the magic of that game, being able to like find your shortcuts through the tools that the game gives you, or just going at it.
That still wishes there was some kind of like hover vehicle at the very end that you could just circumvent all the problems. And I played it out in my head how you could play it with like the jellyfish BTs that would still be in the air and you'd have to dodge it. But I don't know, I love flying vehicles, so that was a personal thing for me. But either way, it was just really fun. I'm resonating again with Sam's journey and Lou and all that process. I still kind of hate Amelie, but I love Higgs of all things. He's wild and ridiculous, and Troy Baker plays him so well.
Higgs is just straight out of a Metal Gear character. Like
he literally is. I so appreciate the chewing the scenery vibe I get from him. But that was really all I had to play of that. I just played a few missions of that and just really love and respect Hideo Kojima for doing that, even though it's a little fart smelling. And I'm excited for the probable sequel that's coming.
Oh, well, we're going to talk about that later.
Yeah.
So.
But then last and not least, we both played Destiny 2. Which
shocker.
Yeah, right. I was a little late to it because obviously I was out of town, but I got in before reset and got to play as much as I possibly could. They did the Solar 3.0 update. Basically, for anybody who doesn't know, the subclasses have kind of operated exactly the same since the first Destiny game back in, what was that, 2014?
Yeah. They haven't. They changed them for Destiny 2, but they had been static for a while.
Somewhat, but like the supers were the same, and some of the way things were kind of done. But you're right, like they had to really revamp things for Destiny 2, but now they've done it again where they just completely changed things up to be a new method. And Solar was the one that they just did out of the 3 original Void, Solar, and Arc classes. But I used to be Solar exclusively in early Destiny 2. Destiny 1, when they first announced the Solar class, that was what I rolled with the most because it was just so fun. You can do a lot of stuff in that. Yeah.
And that's the thing that Solar 3.0, its greatness is not as obvious as Void 3.0, at least initially, because I play as Warlock, you play as a Titan.
Yes.
The Warlock got shafted heavily with Solar 3.0, with how much they gutted the subclass from what it was initially because of them trying to add more customization. It's like the thing that makes Solar 3.0 great, it's more hidden behind build crafting, whereas Void 3.0, at least with Warlock, much quicker. You can get up to speed into like a really cool build, especially with grenades and Devour and all of that.
I'll agree to that.
Yeah, Solar was like, initially I enjoyed the snap that what's the anime, there's like this anime character,
Full Metal Alchemist, Roy Mustang.
Yeah, everyone's been referenced that you can be like a Roy Mustang character if you want, but
that is one side note. If you ever want to get back into anime, Full Metal
Alchemist. Yeah, I've heard. So it took me a while. I was like, I'm not vibing with it because I can heal myself with Void, but not with Solar. When before Solar was like the healing with Warlock, I was like,
Yeah.
this doesn't
So
seem right.
did they just take the healing mostly away from the Warlock side of it? Because that's the one area that I've heard that Warlock is really struggling.
Yeah, it was because before, if you were the middle tree for Warlock, that they gave you the Well of Radiance, which is the sword that you slam in the floor, that gives you kind of like a healing well from inside. You also had a special grenade that if you hold the grenade button for a while, you can like charge it and then throw it, and then you would heal. They made that healing grenade its own grenade now. So you can either choose either a healing grenade and not have any grenade at all, or have other grenades that you have more options for grenades, because you can also do the grenades from the other classes altogether.
Right.
But you no longer have the healing grenade. So unless you're specifically speccing to do the healing rift, which you press hold B or circle to be able to have that, you're constantly static. There's nothing you can do with the Warlock right now that can heal you immediately as you're like trying to do everything, as you're moving, shooting, throwing grenades, all of that.
Gosh, that means that they basically gave Titan the Warlock ability for healing.
No, literally with the sunspot.
Oh my goodness.
However, whenever you spec with, especially now, I feel more than anything, Solar like elemental wells is the play. I used to do Charge of Lights, and I'm like, I don't like this anymore. I'm just gonna go full in on Solar Well, so that when you pick up a Solar Well, you can recharge your grenades, your melees, you can start healing immediately, and just synergize everything. And that's when everything clicked for me yesterday. I put a video yesterday of the Starfire Protocol build that you can build with the Warlock. That's just grenade pandemonium. It's insane how much explosions there is now with Zora 3.0.
Yeah. It reminds me of that brief time watching the fusion grenade phase when I kind of had my second wind with Destiny. And I remember when I sent it to you and you were like, oh yeah, I've got him now. Yeah. Because it was just the explosions, the possibilities for Destiny is basically my point for all this, is untouched by everything else. With all other like MMOs, I always feel like I'm held back by the mechanics of the game, but Destiny is one of those few games where I feel like both skill plays a huge part in it, and the possibilities for just completely breaking your character, which I used to think was only touched by Warframe, is getting to that point where I can do just about whatever I want in whatever color I like, and just decimate like an army of people. And that's like my power fantasy. So that's why that's the sauce that makes Destiny special in a way other MMO just doesn't grab me. It's the gameplay. Man, there's many things that are wrong about Destiny. Destiny is very imperfect. It's been imperfect for almost 8 years. It will remain imperfect forever. The secret sauce that it's the gameplay just keeps you in. It just feels so nice to just move in that world, shoot in that world, execute the powers in that world, that then when you find a really interesting build and see how it can break, it feels so much different than anything else that's there in the market. So that's why you keep at it. And right now, the content for this season, the season of the Haunted, I like the aesthetic, I like the idea. It feels very slight. However, I played a lot of it. The dungeon that came out this last Friday. A little bit of that, haven't you?
I've run it like 10 times since it came out.
My gosh.
And I got the exotic in my second run. So
sword.
Yeah, a sword that I don't like because I'm not much of a sword player. But I just like the idea that another exotic dropped so early when there's one that just refuses to drop for me, the Vex Mythoclast. So
another week has passed.
Yeah. No, today we're running again the Atheon, and we did the old grenade Atheon melt yesterday. We're gonna do it again today, just to try to get 3 more runs in to see if I can get that stupid weapon to drop finally. But that's just my
3 whole runs today.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because
because each class. Okay.
Exactly. No, and you only have to do the checkpoint at the end. You don't have to do the complete run. You do 1 full run, do 2 checkpoints for the other characters, rinse, repeat. Yeah, you just got the time that way. So
okay, that's interesting. It's really funny because That's so much to talk about with Destiny 2 because I promised all of our clan mates I would mention a few of the things that we've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
So we went through Vow the Disciple again,
Uh-huh.
and I don't remember getting anything particularly good from that, but I do remember just really trying out my new solar build,
Mhm.
and the Fatebringer that I've gotten is synergizing so perfectly
With the
it, and
explosions,
I got
right?
it just at the right time for all of this,
Mhm.
which just feels amazing. It's like the best possible like reload speed for a hand cannon that really does some good stuff. And since Ace of Spades was my favorite exotic for a while,
Mhm.
this Fatebringer is exactly what I've been hoping for.
Yeah, Ace of Space has literally the exact same perk, Firefly.
Right. So that's why I'm like, I went through that game so hard with that, so I got used to the whole concept of like hitting the grouped up enemies and that whole thing. And then I got really into submachine guns lately. The new what was it, the Enyo? I think
Is
it's
it the
called.
Gambit one?
No, the really good submachine gun that just came out that you were talking about.
No, the
Now-
Callus Mini Tool.
No, it was gosh, the World Drop one. That you're gonna kick yourself the second you think about it. But anyway, I really like that one, and then the new dungeon one that which I haven't gotten yet has been good, and the mini tool that you mentioned. I just got that yesterday, so I'm gonna start trying to get better rolls at it, and that's craftable, isn't it?
Yeah, you can make it craftable, and if you get an upgrade in the like modules that you can get at the Crown of Sorrow, you can then start re-rolling Umbral engrams to get
Right.
different rolls instead of having to do the stupid RNG that is having to find the opulence key, find the key in the royal pools or the pleasure gardens,
Right.
and then hopefully you get the right chest, and then hopefully you get the right roll. It's been RNG for me has been like, I've been playing this game a lot recently, but this has been the closest I've gotten to wanting to uninstall it with how disrespectful it has been with the rolls I've been giving. And then of course it has to give me the exotic at like the worst. Like this game always like pushes you all the way to the, and this is a waste of time, I can't do this. And like 3 dungeon runs, just armor.
Yeah.
Like in one, so I was just getting armor, and then I was like, no, if this is reformable, I'll keep like blasting this RNG into oblivion until I finally got the submachine gun, the grenade launcher for the new dungeon.
It kind of messed me up that somebody posted the breakdown of the different drops that are possible, and the ones that are actually available, there's like nothing available in the first couple almost, and then all of it is just the boss. So you have to play through like the whole game before you can really get a chance at what you're really looking for. And of course, I got the linear fusion rifle.
Yeah, that's the one weapon now that I don't have. I have everything else, minus the reprised.
And then when we did the Vow run, I forgot to mention that I got Cataclysmic with 4th times the charm and bait and switch.
Yeah, that's the one that I have.
Like
That's the god roll.
Greatest roll.
Yeah.
And I was oh my gosh, poor Duncan was like, oh yeah, what'd y'all get for the raid? And I was like, oh, I got a Cataclysmic. He's like, what's the roll on it? And I was just like, oh, it's 4th times the charm and bait and switch. He goes, no, it isn't. It's like, what are you talking about? Yeah, this is what it is. And I have this knack apparently for getting really good rolls that I have no idea about what they are. I'm really glad I have a clan that I could just be like, hey guys, is this good or not? And then everyone goes, oh my goodness, he's got the roll that we've been looking for.
Yeah, that's kind of like the catch-22 of always playing Destiny, because there will always be that one person that will get what someone else just refuses to drop. Unfortunately for me, I've been that guy many times where everyone else around me just gets the thing and I don't. So I had
you've now gotten the pulse rifle exotic for Vow and the new exotic for this
when
one.
I didn't want them. That's what's so
you just
funny.
get the stuff that you don't want.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the secret. It kind of knows. It's got a
the game knows.
that controller. It knows what we want.
That game knows I want the. I had a Killing Wind Firefly Fatebringer since last year, but I've been wanting explosive payload Firefly.
Yeah.
And you got it in your second run, in your second roll.
I picked it up, and in the same raid at the and I re-rolled for another one just to get something better because it was like rewind rounds and something else trash.
And I have the storm. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was like the worst roll, and I was like, let's just see if I get something else, and then I'll just use that till I get something good. And then the second one I roll is explosive payload and firefly, and I lost my mind because of all things, that is probably the one gun that I wanted a good roll in, and I'm just so happy about that.
Yeah. The thing is that because I'll keep running Bolt of Glass till eternity until I have that thing drop, because eventually Bex Mythical is gonna drop. So, and in the middle of all of that, I'll get that other weapon. So
yeah, and it's just so funny. But let me think. What else have we not actually covered about Season of the Haunted right now?
That's the thing. There's not much right now. We're recording at reset, so hopefully more new stuff happens.
I'd only been able to look at the Eververse after my update finished downloading, so I don't have much else either. But basically, yeah, Solar's been wonderful, and I want to keep playing it. Yeah, and
I need a better roll for my Hunter, because I have a great Titan roll that just throwing the hammer, creating the sunspots, and feeling like a tank.
I have started, like I had messaged y'all in the group, I realized that I was messing up my roll, and that's why I kept dying randomly, because apparently certain things don't operate the way that they're supposed to, and I forgot
or used
mods. To. Yeah, or used to, yeah, because, I mean, they'll change things randomly all of a sudden. But, gosh, I was going somewhere with this. Basically, it's amazing because I'm unkillable now, and I've been going through that Leviathan area, just like tanking so much damage.
It's so fun. And it's just so fun with that hammer. So
that's what I was
fun.
Going to say earlier on. So it's the same thing with Monster Hunter, where I found that the longer you play a game, you have to play a game within the game to really enjoy yourself and find something more. So like for Destiny, you can just play normally and do your thing, but after a while that gets stale. But when you get something where like the mini gameplay loop of what ability to use in front of the next, or like for bait and switch, where you have to shoot one gun, shoot the next, and then shoot your other gun to get the extra damage.
Yeah, that's why you need Wither Horde for that bait and switch. It works so well that way.
So it's like the cool stuff that you can do within that, that you're always thinking within, like, just like you said, the 30-second rule. They've perfected this concept of do this little thing, and you're so focused on that all of a sudden like 8 hours have passed and you haven't even realized the time. And I don't even I
played way too much of that. I'm ranked 12. I'm ranked 12 at the Crown of Sorrow.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, rank 16 could have opened the other thing, because I've been just passively just blowing everything away with my grenades. It's just,
I need to do more of that for Finch with the Witch Queen area, because it takes so long.
Yeah, I haven't touched Savathun's Throne.
Tears of Eternity, just taking forever to level up, and it's I do wish there was like more to do for the strikes, because I feel like I hit a rut where I want to play the regular strike 3 times. I want to do the Nightfall a couple of times, and then that's it you can do besides like Zavala's quests. But
yeah, the playlist right now are just not in a good spot for like reformability. So, and everything just dies so quickly because everything is so base level there. So.
Yeah, but that's about it. I'm not really going to talk too much more about it, but it's fun. Things glow and explode, and those are the things that I love.
I can't wait for Arc. That's next season, and then we finally have everything. I'm scared though, because I don't know what they're gonna do for my Warlock, because I wasn't expecting them to gut Solar 3.0 this way, for me to finally had to craft to basically build craft for it to feel acceptable. I worry where that's gonna take us with Arc, and also what they're gonna do to Titan.
That's also exactly what I'm worried about, because that is still the highest DPS for Titan that's available. Less unkillableness, but it's like you just load up at the furthest part of a boss room and you just Superman fly right across to punch the thing in the face, and it is the best feeling in the world. But
absolutely, so that's the thing. I know that they're willing to nerf some stuff, so
but it does create the desired effect, because as we've seen, it does create a lot more versatility. and viability for stuff that wasn't. Whereas like there
I
was
would have
only
never,
one
I would have
option.
never done empowering rifts and fusion grenades with Starfire Protocol and Wither Horde and all these other things that I
Right.
found.
And I mean, they had to do it even for the Void 3.0. They had to nerf the Vortex grenade into the ground just to get people to play other things.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I understand how they want variety, but also it's like, gosh, if something really works, shouldn't you just make everything else a little better to match up with it?
Yeah,
rather
it's something
nerf
they
it?
call power creep, because then everything's just
Yeah.
too powerful. So I understand that. That's always gonna be the tug and pull, because if you make everything too powerful, then there's no challenge, and then if there's no challenge, it becomes boring. But
The
having
longer
to-
I've played this, the more I've appreciated the artifact mods, because
Mhm.
it makes me realize, yeah, it's temporary, but that is the perfect way you can just reset the status quo.
that was the point. That was the point, because before they were always before they were always blanket nerfing so much stuff. So them at least doing artifact mods right now. Like for example, the sometimes it breaks the sidearm anti-barrier.
about that.
It got disabled because he was shooting through bubbles, so through Titan bubbles. So that's like bad.
I didn't even know that applied to PvP,
It
which is
it didn't.
probably
That's why that's why it got disabled.
Gosh.
Yeah, so sometimes those things gonna happen, but that's the point of the artifact. Just give you that seasonal 3-4 month period to do something specific. It has its drawbacks, because then if there's a weapon you really don't like that has like a very specific anti-champion mod, you're stuck with that weapon for a while. So that's always the pros and cons. But there are some few stuff from like the later part of the unlocks of that artifact that I'm like, that'll be interesting. I heard about this classy restoration one that you just need to use your solar abilities to heal yourself immediately. So I'm like, oh, that sounds
And
beautiful.
it's gonna be nuts once that's unlocked. But what have you been playing besides Season of the Haunted?
Yeah, briefly, there was the sale happening, so I nabbed the Next Machina and Salt and Sanctuary. They were like $5 each. Next Machina is from Housemark, the guys that made Returnal.
Yeah.
That was the second to last game they made before Returnal. It's like a twin stick shooter. I had not played a twin stick shooter in a little bit, and that just hit the spot for in an afternoon where I just wanted to hear some of the other podcasts that I listen and just mindlessly play like a very gameplay specific quick game that's like so over the top. Like there's so much happening on screen that it's like, wow, that's a lot. And then Salt and Sanctuary. I had heard that this is the 2D Dark Souls. Like
I did hear that.
It's insane how true that is. From something its control scheme, its expectations, the feeling of movement. The only difference is that you can jump all the time, because obviously it's a side scroller.
It's a 2D platform.
Yeah, it is horrendously hard.
Really?
Yeah, I died to the first boss like 20 times.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so it's like, ooh, dang, because I consider myself pretty decent at 2D side scrollers, but
You're
man,
definitely better than me in a skilled category. So this is a little surprising. Maybe it's like you're shaking off the cobwebs of the 2D side of it, but that's interesting. I didn't think it was like that hard, you know?
No, it is. It really is, especially with less space for you to read your movement.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Because I've gotten really good, especially after having gone through the original Dark Souls and staying way back, seeing the movement and knowing when to attack. So some of the battle space of that first boss is very small. So he had very specific long attacks that I was struggling of getting the right roll to go under him or knowing when to attack. The stamina would recharge a little too slow for my taste. So that's what was made hard, but I eventually beat it. I was like, okay, this has the exhilaration you can feel from a Dark Souls boss fight.
Wait, you casually said... Oh, wait, you beat the whole game or the
No, the boss.
I was about to say... You're just like, yeah, I died like 20 times on the first boss. Anyway, I beat it.
Yeah, that exactly. So I just beat it, and then I just dropped it. I was like, yeah, when I'm back in the mood. Because I just wanted to test it because it was so cheap. And I heard good things. It was one of those
games that I was thinking about trying one day, but...
You should try it, definitely. It's because there's a sequel that came out, so... That's why I was like, I want to try that first one. Because I've heard good things of this. But then most of my time when I was not playing Destiny, I actually went back to Assassin's Creed Origins. Out of like curiosity, because they had mentioned that they were going to give that game a 60 frames patch. And Origins had always been the game that, especially now going back to the context of when I originally played it, when I was playing a million different things in that fall. That's a game that I never gave its due because it was a new style of Assassin's Creed game. I still had the idea of what I thought Assassin's Creed was, from like Syndicate, Unity, all the ones that previously, and that one changing more towards an RPG. So having to play it but not really, I did beat it back in 2017, but I never
better than me.
yeah, but it was like I was juggling it in the middle of Call of Duty World War II, Star Wars Battlefront 2, Shadow of War, Evil Within 2, Destiny 2, Wolfenstein: The New Colossus. I was playing all of that at the same time. That fall was insane.
That is a stacked lineup for sure.
Yeah, that's one of the most stacked falls from what I remember, because we don't get
was that?
2017. Yeah. So Mario Odyssey also. So all of those games were in that fall. 2017 was an insane year. So I remember liking it, but also not fully vibing it with it becoming an RPG where if you were on their level, you would stab enemies and not kill them. So it wasn't until Odyssey, I mentioned many times how Odyssey was the one that really clicked with me. But part of me has always felt the setting of Origins was better than Odyssey. Odyssey was just much more fun to play because it was like a superhero game. So knowing that patch was coming, I was like, I'll start playing now because the patch is still not live. Apparently it goes live next week because that game is coming to Game Pass. So I can't imagine it launching on Game Pass. They're gonna synergize. We're gonna launch it with the patch now. So, but I was like, I'll just start and now I'll immerse myself in it. And I'll just say this: what a fantastic game, Assassin's Creed Origins. I had not given this game enough credit how well crafted it is, how meaningful its initial ideas were. No, it was because I wasn't in the mindset for this. Now I understand how these games work. I played a shit ton of Odyssey. Bringing that back to Origins, a game that's less grindy, even though there's still some grind in this, and more purpose to how you go through that world, and how Witcher-esque it is in its side questing, where even though there wasn't dialogue options in this one, you were just talking with people. This game built its world in such a slow but very effective way that now I really appreciate the story of Bayek as the Magi of Egypt, saving all the Egyptians during Ptolemy era Egypt, and it's just been quite an addiction just playing Origins. And this was even before the 60 frames patch. I finally understand how the combat works. I finally understand how to properly be at the right level of leveling for everything to feel like smooth sailing. I'm like 10 levels above the required level right now, because just by doing the side stuff as they were popping, because it feels everything's natural in that game. You're just walking and then there's a side quest here. It takes you here where you'll pop another one and go back, and there's some rinse and repeat that happens in some of the side quests there, but they're so quick and the world is just so enticing and so otherworldly that it just sucks you in. And this game deserved way more credit than it was given. It still came out even after it came out after a year break. I feel that people were still not ready when this game came out. But
I mean, there was no standard for what people were expecting out of it, so whatever they did see was still under what they've seen of Assassin's Creed in the past. And RPG, I mean, I'll be the first to say the whole other side of it where, gosh, the RPG aspect of Assassin's Creed was one of the things that might have killed any aspect of it being serious. But in another sense, I've realized both my own acknowledgement of games that I revisited and liked way more than the first time. I mean, Death Stranding was one of them. I was super sour on the end of that game by the end, and then replaying it, I was like, wait, do I love this? And especially with how much you ended up really loving Odyssey, I can see going back how, I mean, by comparison, Odyssey is stupid huge. Origins is surprisingly self-contained comparatively.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's still a huge game, but it's just the right kind of huge. That's the thing. This was
you can traverse all of it. It's not like the water blocking all of it out, and I think that whole aspect of it makes Odyssey feel bigger because you have to get your boat and then go on the boat. But that one was like, all right, just kind of walk it, and then you'll eventually get there.
And also Origins does something that Odyssey didn't, is that it lets you breathe. It's
Yes.
I had realized that I appreciate open worlds that let you just take the scenery in. There's not many million things happening at once. The 2018 Ubisoft games, both Far Cry 5 and Odyssey, suffer from the same thing, that they dialed up all the crazy stuff that could happen in the world to 11. That sometimes when you're walking, oh, here comes a beast. Oh, here comes an invasion. Here comes this. So it didn't allow you the time to just breathe in its world and just kind of take some time to just go from point A to point B, just reflecting. You can reflect, you can just soak everything in instead of having a distraction happening left and right all the time.
They didn't have that bounty hunting mechanic until Odyssey, didn't they?
No, it started here, but it's sparse. There's bounty hunting here, sparse, and Odyssey is all over the place.
It is, and I mean, shoot, freaking Valhalla, I was playing like an entire session that was just, all right, the second I killed one of the mercenaries, another one appeared like right down the way. And I'm like, what? I just killed you. And I respect, just like you're saying, the whole idea of the reserved nature of like, all right, you just did a lot of stuff. Let's just sit back and say, hey, here's where the next thing is, way over here.
Yeah.
Just get to it when you want.
Yeah, they think gamers are too OCD, that they need something to be doing all the time, and I realized, no, I want more space. There's something beautiful about space.
A lot of people have been tricked into believing that.
Exactly, yeah, and that's what happened to Odyssey. And the thing is that what helps Odyssey a lot is that in gameplay, Odyssey is superior to Origins, especially because you have basically superpowers in Odyssey with the Spear of Leonidas. You throw it, teleport. It's
ridiculous, but it's the best kind of ridiculous,
because it makes moving through that game so fun, because you can fall from everywhere, you don't die. You can die from this one because you're an actual person in Origins,
right?
So that's what's been like the only adjustment. But being able to explore tombs, like Origins has the coolest climb up for like one of these synchronizations. It's like climbing the pyramid, being at the top of the pyramid and then sliding down the pyramid. It just works. It just feels great. Like the scale of the ancient world just has that allure that I'm so glad that now that I have the time, because we've mentioned it before, there's nothing coming out right now that's worth playing. We bought a bunch of games that we still haven't even played, but it's like, this is the time to just play whatever you want. And now that I have the time to say, I'm just gonna play this game because there's DLC I never did for this. I never gave this game its first shot. Now I'm giving it its first shot. And now that it's coming to Game Pass, if you're on Xbox, absolutely give it your time. It's like this is the right time to play this kind of game, especially now. Similar to Assassin's Creed 1, the benefit of hindsight helps this game. Based on like everything that came after, you're like, okay, now I appreciate more what they did here. So yeah, I can't wait to keep playing more Assassin's Creed Origins. I hope the patch hits this week. They made a quick tweet about like the time has come or something like that, or that something that Bayek says. I was like, why are you guys tweeting that right now? Are you releasing the patch now, or are you gonna wait until the 7th? So.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. I will say one last thing and elaborate no further. I also played Far Cry 6. It's fun. Go play it. That's all. I'll talk more about it next week because we can get into the rest of the stuff.
We got a few news, Paul. There was so many because we missed an entire week, but I tried to like parse it as much as I could, especially because I still have the cup, so I don't want to be talking too much. So, Paul, let's start the baby. Press X.
For some news.
All right, Paul, can you believe Summer Game Fest is next week?
Gosh, is it?
Yeah. So, number one, on the eve of Summer Game Fest kicking off next week, Jeff Keighley has confirmed the companies that will be featured as part of the event kicking off on Thursday, June 9th, 2022. The lineup includes 2K, Activision, Atlas, Bandai Namco, Bloober Team, Capcom, Coffee Stain, Deep Silver, Devolver Digital, Digital Extremes, Dotemu, there's my dog, EA, Epic Games, Focus Entertainment, Frost Giant Studios, Level Infinite, Mediatonic, MiHoYo, Netflix, PlayStation, Raw Fury, Samsung, Sega, Square Enix, Skybound Games, Steam, Studio MDHR, Tribeca Festival, Warner Bros. Games, and Xbox. The core of Summer Games Fest 2022 will take place from June 9 and 12, but announcements are expected to be spread over a matter of weeks in June. Notably, Sony Interactive Entertainment will stream a new State of Play presentation on June 2nd at 3 p.m. Pacific Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and 11 p.m. BST, and will be annexed to Summer Game Fest. It will include nearly 30 minutes of announcements and updates on PlayStation games, particularly as mentioned in the PlayStation blog, announcements about third-party games and PSVR 2. As a reminder, Xbox Pacific Showcase is on Sunday, June 12, 2022.
That was a talk.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So,
wow. It is. First.
it's a lot of them. Yeah, it's a lot of them. Yeah. We're basically at E3 time, Paul. That's what's funny.
This is the middle of E3, isn't it? Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Well, we're going to have so much to talk about, and
Yeah.
I'm glad that I
I
got
would
the
hope.
vacation out of the way.
Yeah, I would hope. Yeah.
Gosh,
And
well,
I'm
this
glad
is-
you finally went on vacation instead of waiting until after.
Yeah, really. The one thing that I really hope for this is, that there's at least going to be one or two games that are announced that are decent enough in their pull of the zeitgeist that will be announcing and releasing in the same year. There we go. So at least we get some more things that are going to come out this year, and we're going to find out about them finally. Because
We have to, because there's nothing much for the later half of this year. They got to fill up the spots.
So there's got to be some. I mean, this is the ripe opportunity for so many of these companies to find. Normally, that's going to be a bloodbath in the holiday and fall time. It's going to be perfectly clear. There's nothing that's going to be stomping all over them besides as long as they can avoid the late October of Call of Duty. And whenever God of War comes out, they're going to be mostly good.
Yeah, here's what I find interesting, Dave, because the State of Play is this Thursday. It's June 2nd.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
Yeah, the showcase for Summer Game Fest is next Thursday, the 9th.
Yeah.
They're only talking Sony says that they're only doing third-party stuff in this, kind of like the last State of Play we saw with the Dinosaur game, a bunch of Square Enix games. They threw a first-party announcement there, which was the Returnal co-op that was free. That was the only thing they talked about first-party.
Yeah.
Last Gamescom, Horizon announced its date at Keighley's thing. Are Sony just doing third-party stuff this Thursday, and then they're gonna throw the release date next week?
That's what
at Keighley's, because the thing is that this happened in between. The accessibility options are already out there. They're talking openly about it. Some merchandise for this game is already scheduled for September. There's a leak that says the game is coming out on September 30th, 2022, which it's ironically it's a Friday. Some Sony games launch on Friday.
They do.
The irony is that September 30th is usually end of like a quarter. So it's like, if someone said that game's coming out on the 30th, they'd be like, it's just a placeholder day, but it comes out on a Friday. The game has been rated in Korea. The last time something was rated in Korea without us even knowing its existence was Ghost of Tsushima, Director's Cut. That got its rating, and then within the days and weeks, we got the announcement of Director's Cut and Ikishima Island. So it feels like that game, they were getting ready. And the Twitter, if you go to Santa Monica Twitter, it still says 2022. So
I think this is all lining up to be pretty good. If they backed out at this point, I don't know. It just doesn't strike me as something that they would do for this late in the game, knowing who runs the company, who is kind of like, they're the ones that kind of have their act together, not to say anything bad about other companies like CDPR. We know that they usually stick to whatever they're doing, and if they choose not to, there's a good reason that is going to show dividends later on, and they've already done it, as we mentioned, twice. So I think this is going to be lining up to whatever it is. So
yeah, my thing is that game was supposed to be like God of War Ragnarok in particular. It was a 2021 game. That's how they originally unveiled it as. So it has to, like, I cannot imagine a scenario where they delayed it 2 years in a row. Right. For a game that originally was like aiming for last year.
And it wasn't an ambitious 2021 either. It was like
big.
They started working on it the second
they
finished the previous one. They literally had the final cutscene was the lead into the next game, set in the form of a vision. Yeah. So it's like they knew that was all going to be there. So I'm sure they've been like putting the groundwork and laying out the foundation for what was going to be there. So it's not like they had to put it out and then see if it was going to work and then start working on it. So I feel like this has got to be it. And this is just our opportunity for it. So I'm excited
because
for that.
I'll just say that I singled that out because I will tell you this: I have never been in a console generation where I've been part of a console that's just been this damn quiet. That never feels like you have an idea when things are coming out.
Yeah.
So
ironic in this day and age of leaks and far beyond announcements of, hey, all these things we found out because we ripped the files from the game, and now we figured out all the stuff it's going to be after. But then, despite that, it's like,
and the thing is, for example, even though like the Xbox right now suffered a huge blow with the delays of Starfield and Redfall, they at least have a showcase. They will still tell people about games in a week. Sony has just been so damn quiet that they just don't say anything.
What was their last state of play? It was
like in February.
Was that the Hogwarts thing?
Yeah, that one happened after the other state of play. And Hogwarts is not even their game. That's a multi-platform game.
And it's so weird. But yeah, that's just...
Yeah.
I'm excited. I just hope that we get some good stuff. I hope that
I just want Sony to remember that they gotta make us excited about us being in their ecosystem, basically.
Yeah.
Because the Xbox, despite not currently delivering, they make people excited to be part of their ecosystem.
And they have systems.
Yeah. So exactly. So as for the others, the other companies that are going to be part of State of Play, I'm interested by Bluebird Team, because we heard the last episode that we recorded news-wise that they're probably the ones working on Silent Hill. So Keighley, there were so many Silent Hill references at the last Game Awards, so it's like...
It was a little too tongue-in-cheek for my taste, because I'm a little outside of the Silent Hill fandom, but I'm like, gosh, if I was a Silent Hill fan, I would be probably pretty mad at these guys.
Yes, exactly, but it's like Bluebird Team's going to be here, and that's what's their rumor to work on, so maybe that's... Yeah. Confirmation. Capcom suffered a massive leak 2 years ago about some of their upcoming projects. So is this the time where they start unveiling? Because we'll have another news item later. So
that was the same thing as the Nvidia leak, right?
No, this was even before. And then the Nvidia leak confirmed the games from the leak from Capcom. So
oh my gosh.
Yeah. Then let's see who else. Focus Entertainment. Yeah, Focus Entertainment is an interesting one. It's like they have the interesting double A games. So let's see what they're the guys that gave us Plague Tale Requiem, or he's gonna give us Plague Tale Requiem. So maybe they'll show something there.
Is that this year? I think that's this year.
Yeah, supposedly. Yeah. So Sega, they today announced that they're doing a month-long cover with IGN for Sonic Frontiers. They showed gameplay today, 30 seconds. Looks fine. It looks
pretty fun. I didn't actually respond to it, but that was kind of dope, honestly.
That's the thing, like with nothing else coming this year, is like I'm allowing myself some excitement.
That's fair point. The bar is set so low that we're like, oh yeah, all right.
So Warner Bros. Games, are they gonna show more of Suicide Squad? Because they should gameplay, quote unquote, at the Game Awards. Remember?
That or more Gotham Knights.
Dude, yeah, they have both those games.
So. I know, and so like Gotham Knights is tricky because I feel like the very premise of it, the more they show, the more they're going to ruin about the game, and they've already done some pretty poor, frankly.
That's the thing.
Focuses on individual characters.
That gameplay showcase hurt that game.
It did.
The more I watch it, I was like, yeah, this looks rough. Yeah. Man, I want to be more excited because of the subject matter, but yeah. And Xbox, I'm just curious. Like Xbox is not going. I know Xbox is not going to be at the initial kickoff, but because they have their showcase 3 days later on that Sunday, I'm excited for Xbox because I want to see what they do to fill up the spots that they left vacant this year. So
that's a good point. They're gonna just replay Scalebound and say, it's a new game. It's gonna come eventually.
Yeah, that's the thing. They got to do something because they got to like.
They do.
They banked this entire year on Bethesda, and Bethesda had to delay. So it's like they also have their own studio, so I would hope that one of them could at least try to put out something this year.
My theory is they're going to try stretching their time with DLC about other games that have already come out, both between first party and third party, and then maybe at the end show the possibility of one thing. I mean, they've got to have at least gameplay of Starfield, even though it's going to be delayed. So maybe they can at least like hype that.
Yeah, it would break their tradition because usually Bethesda would wait the year they release something to show gameplay, but
as we've established, this is not the years for tradition right now. And they've already kind of broken tradition with some of their stuff anyway. So
exactly. So it's like, we'll see. At least I know that Xbox is doing a big showcase. This State of Play that's coming out in 2 days. We'll watch it. Maybe we'll react to it. If you don't see a reaction on our channel, we didn't find it worth it. But if we do a react, hopefully it has some fun stuff there. So moving on from that, Paul, because it's like next week might be even more exciting. So number 2, it would appear the existence of a sequel for Death Stranding has seemingly been confirmed. When talking to digital magazine Leo Edit, Norman Reedus basically said, "We just started the second one," when referring to his next project following Death Stranding. And if this wasn't enough confirmation, Hideo Kojima posted a rather non-cryptic tweet saying, "Go to your private room, my friend," where Kojima is holding a Negan's Bad Lucille from The Walking Dead, taking aim at Reedus' head moments after he said his comments. Reedus has made blip mention about a potential Death Stranding sequel around August of last year, but his words now, and Kojima's hilarious response basically confirms the author's next project. That's the best way to confirm something. That's the thing pops up, and then he literally that's the thing that he tweets after that.
I didn't realize that's what the caption read. I just saw him doing that, and I thought that was like, oh, he's just using like a really clever thing. But I love the caption even better.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's fantastic, though. I think that is. That duo, especially the circumstances of how they met in the first place, where like, was it Guillermo del Toro was like,
just go meet this guy.
This weird guy's gonna call you, just say yes to whatever he's doing. And then he's like, yeah, this was really fun, I want to do it again.
Exactly.
So like,
this is not games have come so far from Miss Pac-Man.
I love when somebody who's not connected to the video game aspect gets like,
it's so out of touch about some stuff,
but like they're in a positive way. They're like, whoa, I didn't realize this was actually super cool. Like, I remember there was an interview with Sean Bean when the Kingsglaive movie came out, and he's like, I've never even played a video game, but this is freaking nuts. And just all of them who are like super removed from video games were like, this is actually the coolest thing I've done in a while. And I love that stuff. So seeing Norman Reedus, who's like very out of touch but in a positive way, is like, this is really fun. I did a lot of work on it, and then we were done, and it was cool.
I still can't believe we live in a world where there's gonna be a sequel to Death Stranding.
I thought for sure it was gonna be like a
one and done
thing, but I'm the longer I've sat with it, and notwithstanding the fact that I just went back to replay it, but it like popped into my head and it stuck with me so much longer. And I realized that in this world of like all the grimdark nonsense, it's just so unabashedly positive. And like, it's okay, guys, life sucks, but we're working together.
Thank you so much.
You know what? I need this right now. I need this. And
so earnest in this positivity and looking positivity amidst the cataclysms.
But like, it also doesn't shy away from like the really bad, evil stuff that people can do, and I think that's a really good way to balance it, where you have like evil and good arguments against what things are going on in the world right now, but then in the end it's like, yeah, but it's okay, you just got to keep working together. And I don't know, that's vibing with me.
And it makes me wonder, it's like because ironically I always say that it's so funny that Death Stranding shares the most DNA with Metal Gear Solid 2 in that it predicted the future. Although that one came out that one came out like became more true almost immediately. It makes me wonder if then Kojima, then his light bulb went up and he has more to say about what he had to say, that's how there's a sequel now that's gonna happen.
It makes me wonder, because reminds me of that interview that he had with, I think it was Jeff Keighley, where he's like, yeah, things really suck in Japan. Help us. So
at last year's Summer Game Fest, hey, Hideo, how are you doing? We're in lockdown right now here.
He just, because he talked about how
existential
he realized, like, he was aware that his game predicted 2020 more or less, and how he was like, I'm gonna have to really think about this before I make my next project. And that was like before any of this was a twinkle in his eye. So now I'm like, he clearly has something figured out, and I am so interested, especially now that I follow him on Twitter, and his stuff is like almost nonsensical, but always so passionate that I can't help but respect the guy.
Yeah, he's one of the funniest dudes you can follow, because he tweets everything that he tweets. It's like, I tell you, he's a threat to society. Everyone like every time that he tweets something, like the internet burns. Everyone starts like reading everything, like in the middle of the whole abandoned nonsense. And he was tweeting in the middle of that. It's like, so,
but basically, I've learned to respect him a lot more, even though on record I have bashed his decision making for some things. But
I'll say this, because this game also came out from Gamatsu. This is reputable Japanese trade over there. Apparently he was actually working on the Silent Hill thing, and then the many ones that Konami was like shopping. That was what Gamatsu had said. So it's like, has he finished already working on that thing? And now he's moving to Death Stranding 2. Is that still preliminary? He's like a mercenary, so it's like,
he's just all over the place, and he is unable to be bound now that he has enough of that clout to throw around. So who knows what's going to happen next.
Yeah, I just can't wait for the next like tinfoil hat moment with this man. All right, Paul. Number 3. Moving to Sony a little bit. Sony Interactive Entertainment's own Jim Ryan mentioned PlayStation was planning to release 2 of their proposed live service games for its current 2022-2023 fiscal year, ending in March 31st, 2023, which do not include the recently released MLB The Show 22 or Gran Turismo 7, which they consider as part of that initiative. Originally, the company had mentioned they're planning on releasing 12 live service games by 2025, and with no other game officially announced from them as of right now, other than the upcoming God of War Ragnarok, which we recently got a rating in South Korea, which means it's coming out this year, from what we're talking about, and both Marvel's Spider-Man 2 and Marvel's Wolverine, which none are live service games. It is time for Sony to pull the curtain up and unveil some of these games. Maybe at the State of Play or Achilles' main show.
This is like what we were talking about earlier with the State of Play. Like, they have been so quiet that people just burn for information at all from these people. And they almost set themselves up for failure, because everybody is, especially nowadays, people's expectations for things are like really high, or like the scope and capability. And then Sony's just like, no, that's not at all what we're looking into. We're just not interested in that right now. And then everyone's like, well, why would you hint at it? And why would you not say these things and all that stuff? So, I think they do need to start being a little more transparent about some of this stuff.
The thing is that the worst part about them backing away from E3 since 2019 is that it has given us no rhyme or reason of when to expect them to say anything. We thought we had an idea when they did that June showcase in 2020. That's when they unveiled the PS5.
Yeah.
When they gave us Miles Morales, they unveiled Forbidden West, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. And then that June came and went. Next June came and went with nothing from them. Then on 2020 they did that September event when they unveiled the prize, and that's when they gave us God of War Ragnarok, or at least the tease that just said 2021. Then we got nothing until September the next year. I wish they can at least just tell us, hey, every time we hit September, expect us there.
Yeah.
That's when we're saying something. Right now it's very willy-nilly. It's like they randomly say, now we're gonna attack here, now we're gonna attack here. It's like, if there's something that, despite the 2020 that happened to Nintendo, if there's something you can expect from them, is that at least you have an idea when the Nintendo Directs are gonna happen. Microsoft has set up that expectation with, in June we're talking.
Yeah.
So now they're like, yeah, we're releasing 2 live service games in 2022 before March ends. And it's like, okay, where the are you going to mention these games? Like, when? It's like, they already mentioned the State of Play's third-party focus in PSVR 2. Are your live service games third-party? Is that what you mean? Because you have mentioned the first party.
Do you think that could be just mobile games?
I don't think so, because they're mentioning games that are core to PlayStation. Core PlayStation 5 games.
Man, this just sounds like...
I tell you, it sucks being a PlayStation 5 in the PlayStation 5 generation, because you live with vague promises. And they're doing this because they're winning. That's what I hate the most. I bet you they're in there. They're like, why would we even say anything? We're like selling 82,000 machines that we can put out in like 82 minutes. We have like high demand. I would hate the idea that it's like, yeah, we don't have to do anything. We're winning.
Yeah.
That's how this feels.
This strikes me like that whole piece, specifically the live service games. That sounds like something that somebody higher up that had a very misguided view on where everything's at with the rest of PlayStation would say, where they're just like, yeah, we're gonna put out 2 of these games by the end of the fiscal year 2023, and they're just like, wait a minute, this doesn't line up at all. So unless they're just planning on barking those out randomly, it's either that was said so early that everything needed to get delayed, or he was just talking out of his butt when he like greenlit some projects or something, and it doesn't speak to the the peripheral view of what's going on around them, you know? It's like that's a very PR statement that they heard from an executive rather than actually seeing where a project
But this is the main
be.
guy. This is Jim Ryan saying. This is like the head.
But that's where I'm like leading into this, where is he just super out of touch, or is he getting the wrong information, or did something go wrong, in which case
this is the precedent. This is literally the precedent that sets all this stuff. So
that's what I mean. Like, does that just mean they haven't been speaking to us enough, so that the last time they spoke to us when they talked about that, something went terribly wrong, and because they just don't talk to the public, like in which case we just go full circle again, saying, well, if they talked more to the public, maybe they could avoid all of this problem.
They could set a cadence of knowing when they're gonna announce stuff, because obviously we are getting lucky that they're even having a state of play right now in like 2 days. The fact they had to shoot it in the crib by saying it's just third-party games and PSVR 2 is like, who cares about what they show up there? It's like, we are assuming God of War could have a big pop at Keighley's thing because they gave that for Horizon or games. Remember when they gave that date to Horizon? I was like, Sony's not doing an event then because they gave away their big thing to him. So it's like, it's
at least they acknowledge when they're not good at performing, and they're just like, we'll just let him do it. We don't want to deal with that. Because
and that
otherwise
to me
they would put on their own terrible show.
It just sucks because Sony used to be the king of the shows.
I know.
They had great E3s. Those E3s were exciting.
Ghost of Tsushima, the flute thing. Was that E3?
Yeah, that was their last E3 when they had that whole flute guy playing before they showed the gameplay. When they showed The Last of Us, when they showed Spider-Man, when they showed Death Stranding. That was their last E3. They had that show was a little too fart smelly for its own good, but at least it had like a class to it that they show the games.
It was cool enough, at least.
Yeah, I just missed. I would. That's why I tell you, is like, I would hope that they would suffer. I would hope that PlayStation would suffer for them to realize that they have to fight instead of just letting things happen. Because I tell you, it just doesn't feel exciting to be part of PlayStation. I'm just there because of inertia, but it just there's no sense of excitement about being part of their system because they don't talk. And now they're telling me they're planning on releasing 2 games. They haven't even damn announced. And we don't even know. Are they going to wait until September to drop these 2 live service games? To like the announcement? Because that's
drop it, or they're going to wait until the very last minute and be like, yeah, so they got pushed back and like not talk about them anymore.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I tell you, it's like, I hate this PlayStation. I miss the one from PlayStation 4. At least I knew stuff was coming there. So
I think ever since they stepped at E3, the fact they never actually planned to replace that with anything, where like Nintendo always had the directs, Microsoft always had, or they just never stopped with the shows.
yeah,
But
and
when
not only
Sony
that,
stepped away,
yeah, when they made a point of being like, yeah, we're gonna go the direct route, the PlayStation State of Play. Newsflash: the states of play suck. They've all sucked. The ones that haven't sucked are the showcases. But now there is like no rhyme or reason to expect a showcase from them either. That's the worst part. So now that they announced a state of play, you know it's gonna be terrible. I'm not expecting anything great for this one from this Thursday because that's the expectations they've set. So,
gosh, just imagine if it's something really crazy. But you're right, and it's been just disappointment after disappointment. With like the phrase "state of play" used to be like the big thing. And that's where you used to find out all the cool stuff, and now it's
the only time a state of play popped was the second one they ever did, and it was because they included Final Fantasy VII Remake at the end with a tease. Oh, come to the Square Enix E3 in a few weeks, and that's when they gave it the release. That's the only time that was like, because that was the point where Final Fantasy VII Remake was like, oh, this exists, because everyone was like, this is never coming out, and then when that was at the state of play, we're like, okay, that's interesting. But it's like they wanted to go the Nintendo route, and their state of plays are always clowned on because they all suck. They just suck. So the only state of plays that I enjoy are the deep dives. The Last of Us deep dive, the Ghost of Tsushima deep dive, Horizon deep dive. Those work because at least you know it's the game. You're seeing more of the game. In fact, the Ghost of Tsushima one was the one that sold me a little bit more in the game because I was not excited for that game initially.
I remember it was 17 minutes long.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like those are the only state of plays that work. But state of plays that are just game showcases, they don't work for them. So that's why it sucks that now they're doing 1 in 2 days, and it's like my expectations are in the gutter for it. Yeah. So they better start talking, because again, I tell you, I want them to lose. I want PlayStation to lose. I own them. I want them to lose, because when they're losing, they fight for you. So. And that's why I'm excited for what Microsoft will do. Everything Microsoft has been doing because they've been losing and they have the momentum. They're currently losing again for delaying those games. But I bet you top dollar they're gonna do a lot to try to like fight back anything for them screwing up the fact that they don't have games this year.
They certainly do seem to try at least for that, and I think
I'd rather a company try
a little bit of mud on the white horse that they rode in on. So I'm hoping that they get at least a little bit of a knockdown, a little bit of a concussion, and they're like, oh shoot, we got to take this seriously.
No, that's what I want, because when they're like that, that's when they're gonna start talking. That's when they're gonna start shooting. So right now they're not shooting because they're like, we're here, we're sitting in our golden palace. We don't have to do anything. Everything's selling out. But I hope that just stops for them. I just want that, because then it's like I just want to feel excited about investing in that ecosystem, because it just doesn't feel that way. So, number 4, Paul. 2012's Dragon's Dogma has been one of Capcom's most celebrated / underrated hidden gems in its lineup, and has fostered a massive cult following since its initial 2012 release. Capcom has recently launched a 10th anniversary website to celebrate this hidden gem of a title. And with one of the big games from both the late November 2020 Capcom leak and 2021's Nvidia leak being none other than Dragon's Dogma 2, is it safe to assume this long-awaited sequel is finally going to be revealed?
So did you play either Dragon's Dogma or Dark Arisen?
Yeah, I have played both.
Okay, so I always thought it was weird that they were going to call it Dragon's Dogma 2, because I always thought Dark Arisen was Dragon's Dogma 2.
Dark Arisen was just expansion.
That's just so weird. Because it treats itself like a sequel. Because I remember playing it and they were like, oh, if you played the original Dragon's Dogma, you'll get this item that lets you teleport whenever you want. I was like, that seems really broken. But anyway,
that's one of those games that I played a little bit and then never went back to it. But everyone that's played them absolutely loves them. There's just something about Dragon's Dogma that has weight for something that's just been a one and done for Capcom.
I respect the heck out of it, because just like what you said, I played it super late on PS3, and it was during that time where I was building up my friends list, and they had that whole ability where you could hire your friend's main character as an NPC in
I
your
heard.
party.
Uh-huh.
And so you could actually get like your friend who has like level 40 characters at the
Without him
beginning of the
playing,
game.
right? And without him playing, right?
No, yeah, it's just an NPC with all of their stats. So like they beat the game, and I could play with their character on level 1. So as soon as I got the ability to hire those characters, it was like, yeah, you have a friend and this is their character, and it's like stupidly powerful. And it was really fun because I had like my 3 buddies that like they weren't playing, but it was their character, and it felt like each of them had like a part of their personality in it. And like the ability to climb on the monsters, the running through the world, the lantern mechanics felt kind of like the Twilight Princess era of gameplay, where it just felt kind of grounded, but it was still quality of life enough to be fun, if that makes sense, in like a weird dark fantasy world like that. And
some Monster Hunter also.
Yes, it's like I don't want to say Dark Souls, but it's like Dark Souls meets Monster Hunter.
People were like, when people were waiting for Dark Souls 2, Dragon's Dogma was like scratching that itch for so many.
Basically.
2012 and 2013.
It was fun. I don't know if it would really hold up anymore.
It's on PS4. I have it installed. I just haven't tested it, but that's another one of those that I'm like, should I? Because I've heard many things from you.
Yeah, it was really strong for its time, and I think the gameplay should hold up better than some other things, like Knights of the Old Republic, for instance. And I think it's worth the attempt just to see what it was, especially if this ends up being real.
Yeah.
So yeah, anybody keep an eye out for that. If Dragon's Dogma 2 is real, it's probably going to be awesome.
And that's the thing. What is Capcom releasing this year? It makes me wonder, especially because the Nvidia leak has all basically been real. All of it.
Yeah.
So
that means we got a lot of the cool stuff coming up soon.
And Capcom isn't Keely's thing. It's interesting they're launching this website right now.
Gosh, is Capcom becoming one of my favorite developers?
They've always been for me. They're reliable for me.
They're the one that like I never want to acknowledge as my favorite because they do some dumb stuff sometimes, but then I'm like, crap, I love everything they make for the last 10 years. So shoot, maybe I do.
They were horrible for a little bit when they were just remastering stuff because they were not releasing anything.
Yes.
And then from RE7 onward, the switch flipped for them. Resident Evil became big again. Monster Hunter World happened and it was huge.
Plus, I love
Rise and Stories.
I had that whole rant after I finished Resident Evil 8 where I was like, they're just the king of New Game Plus, and I love all of this stuff. And I was like listing games one after the other that just had this infinite replayability. Man, that was some good times.
Devil May Cry 5?
Yeah, absolutely. All of it.
That's from them.
So. And I retweeted something on Twitter where
that fight. Which fight was that you retweeted?
That was Nero versus the one that was Trish, the Cavalier or something. I forget what they called it. But I forgot that Nero even fights that. I think it's later in the game. But just the stuff that you can do. It looked so action packed, like an actual movie. And it's just. The stuff that Capcom's been making has been killing it. So if they make Dragon's Dogma 2 with the way they've been lately, they're going to put some work into that, and it's going to be. I'm actually kind of excited now that we've been talking about it for a minute. That's going to be cool.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like Capcom's got to release something because they have hit something every year. So they're doing an expansion for Monster Hunter right now at Rise. So. Sunbreak,
which I hear has been pretty cool. But I will mention, if anybody wants to get into Dragon's Dogma, do not under any circumstances watch the Netflix show. It's terrible. It is terrible in just about every way, from animation. Just imagine Berserk 2017, but without just feeling like it's, this is boring. It's like actively frustrating.
Oh no.
So anyway, that's all I'll say about that.
All right.
But yeah, Dragon's Dogma 2, if that comes out, that would be awesome.
That would be cool, especially if they surprise release it this year. They have an opening, so
that would be nice.
That'd be great. Anyway. So number 5, Paul, this may be of interest to you. One of the bigger surprise announcements from early in 2021 was Bethesda's own Machine Game Studios, the developer of Wolfenstein: The New Order and The New Colossus, was working on a new Indiana Jones game, while also being overseen by Bethesda Game Studios' own Todd Howard. The Indiana Jones announcement was done close to the big event in March 2021, where Microsoft's own Phil Spencer confirmed the Bethesda acquisition was done in part to provide the Microsoft ecosystem, quote-unquote, great exclusive games to platforms where Game Pass exists, which would rule this new Indiana Jones game an Xbox PC exclusive. However, recent rumblings suggest this new Indiana Jones game may actually be multi-platform. Speaking on the Xbox 2 podcast, Windows Central's own Jess Gordon says that he heard around a year ago that the game wouldn't be exclusive to Xbox, despite being developed by the now Microsoft-owned Machine Games. While discussing the game, Gordon's co-host Randall Thor says, "We don't know if it's exclusive," to which Gordon replies, "It isn't." He goes on, "The only information I've had on Indiana Jones is that it wasn't exclusive, but that was a long time ago. Maybe something has changed. Considering some Bethesda titles since the acquisition, like the recently released Quake games, have been multi-platform, jury is out for this Indiana Jones game's multi-platform availability."
I want to start by saying one thing that it would betray everything that Indiana Jones is about, but I just pictured a crossover between Wolfenstein and Indiana Jones, where it's just him mowing down Nazis with all of the ridiculous weaponry. It would be just, it'd be so terrible for the Indiana Jones IP, but it just sounded really fun for some reason. Anyway, gosh, that would be really awesome if they could make something like that with the kind of detail that they've been creating in their games. I mean, jury's out on some of the quality decisions for the Wolfenstein series that they decided on. Overall, I mean, you can't argue the fact that they're gorgeous and they play really well for what they're trying to achieve, I would say.
I like both those games a lot.
Yeah,
those games are really fun.
Mechanically, they're fantastic.
But the stories are shockingly good.
The emotion that I really got out of, especially New Order, New Colossus, but it was really fun. I'll give it that. The
New Colossus is over the top. I mean, the halfway point of that game is just insane.
My goodness, I think that game gave me PTSD somehow for the crap I had to deal with. But I mean, it's such a cool concept. Anyway, Indiana Jones was really cool. Where, I mean, you could just do so much stuff with Indiana Jones, and the fact that they just haven't done anything with him for all of these years is kind of heartbreaking. And
that's the question: is Indiana Jones relevant? He
is always relevant, first of all.
In pop culture, though.
I think you definitely need to have like a Mad Max Fury Road style movie to like really kick it off again. But if they wanted to do that with a game, I mean, we are hearing the rumblings of the Indiana Jones 5 or whatever.
Yeah, well, not rumblings, it's official. They showcase
not rumblings, but like rumblings and more when it's coming out, because we haven't really seen much besides the screenshot. I think
it's coming out next year. Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Anyway, all right.
Yeah, remember, Star Wars Celebration happened while you were on vacation. That's
right.
Jedi Survivor, Star Wars Jedi Survivor officially got announced there. Finally, we talked about that game a while. They showcased a bunch of the TV shows. They showcased Indiana Jones there. Had Harrison Ford show up. So
shoot. Okay, so they had like a whole talk about it, because I know they had the screenshot, and it was really cool with him like walking across like a wooden bridge or something.
Yeah, it's like a silhouette.
So it's becoming, if that's the case, and we get this sometime next year, that'll coincide really well. Is this going to be the bringing back of licensed video games for a movie? No, probably not. But I want Indiana Jones to come back. I feel like it's been a long time coming. It's a timeless storyline, and I think that people need to really come back to this. So I hope it's good. I don't know how they're going to do it, because frankly, any way that they've tried just doesn't really feel right. It would have to basically be Uncharted. Yeah,
I don't love the Xbox Indiana Jones Emperor's Tomb.
I don't even know if I played it. Was that no? I played one on PS2.
That was also on PS2. Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb.
Yeah, that's the one I played, and I was like, "Yeah, this is all right." And I don't think I ever actually finished it. But I also played it like in the middle of the 360 era, so I was like reaching back to be able to play that one. So I think the game I most played was the Lego Indiana Jones, honestly.
I love Lego Indiana Jones, the original.
That had a lot of heart to it. I wish I could go back and replay
Temple of Doom and Lego Indiana Jones is so well done.
Which is way better than the movie itself. That's for sure.
Yeah, I like that movie a lot.
That was like the odd duck in the series for me, but now with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, I would say that's way better than the sequel, whatever you want to call that was.
Crystal Skull is just the worst. So
it is.
Well, Paul, final story. We had 7, but the final one, just so people know, Call of Duty was announced and it's coming on October 28th. Final story, Paul. One of the more intriguing potential games possibly coming out this year, the Callisto Protocol from the creator of Dead Space, always had an interesting wrinkle to its existence. The game was part of the PUBG universe.
Wait, pardon?
Yeah, that was the wrinkle for Callisto Protocol. We talked about it in the most anticipated episode we did earlier this year.
Gosh, I must have forgotten all of that.
Yeah.
That's my wife.
Yeah, I saw her silhouette there.
Oh, sorry, buddy.
Is the puppy there? Is he about to have the cameo?
He will not today because we're trying to get him to go out to go to the bathroom, and any distraction causes him to forget that he has to pee until it's too late. So we'll wait for a little bit to give him this cameo, but he is very adorable. Yeah. Trust me.
Continuing the story. However, that outlandish connective tissue seems to have been nipped in the bud, with director Glenn Schofield sharing on Twitter. FYI, At Callisto Game is its own story and world. It no longer takes place in the PUBG universe. It was originally part of the PUBG timeline, but grew into its own world. PUBG is awesome and we will still have little surprises for fans, but the Callisto Protocol is its own world, story, and universe. The game is rumored to be part of the upcoming Summer Game Fest by Jeff Keighley. It's part of 2K. Considering the game was first unveiled at the 2020 Game Awards, it makes sense the game would feature again at Keighley's show.
So, remind me, please, and for our listeners as well, why was it in the PUBG universe?
Because they said it was.
Just because they said it was, that's it?
That's how it was originally announced.
That is so strange. Well, I mean, that was one of the sources for that whole crossover obsession for a while, so I guess it's just so weird to decide on that. But all right, I'm getting hung up on the wrong thing. I am glad that they decided to just say that they're avoiding the whole battle royale game that we abbreviate all the
to me,
time.
it was just the idea that it was connected to PUBG. It was like, why? PUBG is like the most vanilla milquetoast thing. Is that there's like nothing about it. That's like defining.
Truly nothing.
So,
and I mean, that's one of the reasons why it was so crazy that it just blew up like
it blew up because of the game. The gameplay blew up because of the idea. That's why it blew up.
Yeah. It's so weird. That I'm just like flashing back to that early stage when I first got my PC. It had just come out and I bought it for like $30 or something.
The early access, I remember.
Goodness gracious. That was a time, and that was when I realized that I'm very bad at shooters and PC. But anyway, frankly, I'm really glad for this because Callisto Protocol had enough, I would say, personality to kind of live on its own anyway. It
was basically Dead Space before EA decided to remake Dead Space.
And I think that they're even so, like, I know everybody wants to compare it to that one big positive knowledgeable thing, and not just with Callisto Protocol to Dead Space, but like anything. I mean, just look at the Uncharted series. You do any sort of slightly action adventure shooter and they're like, oh, it's the Uncharted series. But it's like, this, I think, needs to get out of its own shadow, and I think this is the first step to that, where when you can make your own art direction and style that's kind of unique from everything else, I think this is just fantastic, and so I'm glad that they're going to keep moving forward with their own thing, and they don't have to get tied down by any of that
Exactly, stuff. Especially tied down to something that I don't think people really care for anymore. I think they finally realized that tying anything to PUBG when everything else is just more popular around it is like, it's a fool's errand. And I'm just excited because this is the guy that created Dead Space doing another Dead Space-like game after EA gave them the shaft.
It's going to be a really cool comparison to see this compared to the
Dead Space remake. Especially if it comes out first. Especially if this comes out first.
I mean, I almost want this to win in the process, but I also want the remake to do really well.
Yeah.
So this is like one of those first times where I'm like, gosh, I kind of like both of these, and I wouldn't mind if both were really good. So
yeah, you can make the argument that the original that the Dead Space remake is being made by not the people that made the original game.
Yeah.
So it's like you can cheer for the people that created the original idea doing the new idea.
For the moral side of it, I would love
Mhm.
to do that, but I also want more people to play both the original Dead Space and the remake for people to like acknowledge how really good it was for its time. And
they can technically do that right now on Xbox.
Right, but you know, some people after a certain point they're like, "Oh, that game came out like 10 years ago. It doesn't hold up," because there's that misconception, which sometimes can be true because things don't translate super well.
That game translates super well still.
Dead Space could come out with no additions outside of just making it look better, and it would be 100% perfect still. All right, that's a bit of a gross overstatement, but it would still be.
It was perfect for what it was. It was perfect for what it wanted to do. So, yeah.
Tone, shooting, it's all like none of it has aged the way that other games have, you know. It still hasn't been touched with the way it integrates UI into its gameplay. It's
and
so
Callisto
good.
Protocol absolutely is following that based on on the art direction that they've shown.
More games didn't do that. I know some
it's complicated.
It is, I believe it.
Do you know God of War wanted to do that? The 2018 one wanted to do that, but
how would they have?
They couldn't because they were so committed to the one-shot camera from the beginning to end that the menus had to be cut everything, because before it would be like the camera they wanted, like Cory Barlow said that he wanted like the camera to zoom in to the axe when you were like in pause and all of that, but then they added all the mechanics of that game, the loot, the like all the different menus you had. That was like he said that it was gonna be an impossible thing to get right, especially for their intent of a camera that never cut. So
that would have been really awesome, actually. But I can see how that would be just a living nightmare, because especially usually the UI team and everything else is very separate. So that would require so much cooperation that I don't think that would have been worth what you would get out of it, even though it's really cool, especially for shooters. I mean, say what you will about Battlefield 2042, but that was a really great idea for them to just let you do the crisis system where you could just switch things out on the fly and make what you needed work, which I kind of wish more games would do stuff like that still. So hey, maybe they'll do it again one day.
We'll see.
I mean, we have, what is it, the first person medieval game that's we were talking about the other week, a couple weeks ago.
Was
it started with an A? Adorned? Avowed, yeah. I was like, they could probably do something like that because it's first person, make it easier. Anyway, I'm getting myself on cool gaming mechanics tangents, but yeah, Callisto
that could be a
Protocol.
fun. Yes, Callisto Protocol. I hope it's good. I just want more horror, that kind of space horror game. And with that, Paul, we conclude our returning episode after the brief time off we had. Next week should be an interesting one. We may or may not do a react for this Thursday for the State of Play.
Yeah, that's a bit of a toss-up. We'll see. Yeah,
we might react to it, but if you see it, our live reaction go live, it was because it was notable. If not, just wait until the next episode, and then we might have to double up episodes, special episodes, because of Summer Game Fest. So
it's going to be a lot of crap going on.
Keep that in mind. Kind of like what we did last year. Kind of like what we did last year. So, Paul, where can people find you?
As always, y'all can find me at Dork of Art on Twitter. I do art, I do memes, and sometimes I get liked by the developers of games that I make art for. Which happened for the Requiem, the Plague Tale people, and that was fantastic. So I'm still riding that hype, frankly. How about you? Where can they find you?
They can find me on Twitter at _Segovia, and Instagram at AlejandroSegovia93, where I post links to the show. And you can find some of my written content at thecriticalcorner.com. I should write something there soon. I haven't written in a while. But it's still like amassing viewership somehow. So those evergreen things, Paul, I tell you, those keep growing. So, Paul, it was fun. Hopefully by next week I will feel less winded because I'm still recovering from this cough. And hope we have some fun announcements to look forward to.
Even if there's not announcements, there's going to be a lot of shenanigans between us, that's for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm always down for a rant, so
we always have time for rants.
Oh yeah. So, Paul, always a pleasure. Enjoy the puppy. Everyone stay safe and stay healthy. Take care of yourself, and remember, press X
to play. Good night, everybody.
See you later.